Welcome to Zenith Global News, your eye on a world at the breaking point.
All right, let's dive right into today's explainer and break down the top headlines. We are tracking a lot today. Escalating US-Iran military tensions, a foiled IRGC-linked assassination plot, a devastating mine tragedy in Shanxi, surging domestic fuel prices, and some really sudden shifts in US green card policy.
Starting things off with Section 1, US-Iran tensions escalate, putting the world on the brink.
We have to open with the most destabilizing geopolitical news right now, which is the rapidly escalating military confrontation between the United States and Iran. The sheer urgency of the situation is practically off the charts. Just as the White House released a brief video showing the launch of a nuclear-capable B-2 stealth bomber, the Pentagon reported that Iranian airspace had been completely cleared. It's language that feels eerily reminiscent of the buildup we saw to the March conflict. But running parallel to all this military posturing, we are seeing some frantic late-night diplomatic interventions. Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Qasem Munir, actually traveled to Tehran for midnight talks with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, working alongside mediation delegations from Qatar. So it's this incredibly tense high-wire act, military readiness on one side and desperate diplomacy on the other. And compounding these immediate military fears, international nuclear anxieties have deepened significantly. You see, the UN's Non-Proliferation Treaty Review Conference just completely failed to reach an agreement. After 4 grueling weeks of intense discussions, the 191 member states couldn't even agree on a watered-down final document. This was largely due to really sharp exchanges and deep divisions over the US-Iran conflict, plus recent strikes on nuclear facilities. Guys, this marks the 3rd consecutive collapse of an NPT review conference that highlights a severe ongoing breakdown in global nuclear consensus. Moving on to Section 2, Trump assassination plot foiled with an IRGC-linked suspect arrested. Shifting from international diplomacy to domestic security, it's wild to see how these broader Middle East tensions are connecting directly to a foiled, highly coordinated plot right on U.S. soil. U.S. authorities recently arrested a 32-year-old Iraqi national named Mohammed Bakr Saad Dawood al-Sadi in Turkey, and they've since extradited him to the United States. He's officially accused of plotting to assassinate Ivanka Trump. When investigators dug into this, they uncovered a blueprint of her $24 million Florida residence. Even more chilling, they found a translated threat he posted on social media, warning that neither palaces nor the Secret Service would protect the Americans, declaring that revenge is simply a matter of time.
Now, here's the crucial point. This wasn't just an isolated incident, not even close. The Justice Department has officially tied this suspect to 18 different attacks and attempted attacks scattered across Europe and the US. These allegedly include a firebombing in Amsterdam, a stabbing in London, a shooting near the US consulate in Toronto, and planned attacks against Jewish institutions in both Belgium and the Netherlands.
So who is this guy? Well, investigators allege al-Sadi maintained very close ties with Iranian military networks, specifically the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC. He was raised in Baghdad but was reportedly sent to Tehran for training. Court documents actually include images of him standing with top Iranian military commander Qasem Soleimani. According to the reports, al-Sadi was explicitly seeking retaliation for the 2020 U.S. drone strike in Baghdad that killed Soleimani during the previous U.S. administration. That brings us to Section 3, tragedy in Shanxi mine, following a devastating gas explosion. While diplomatic and security channels remain incredibly strained in the West and the Middle East, a massive, truly heartbreaking rescue operation is underway in East Asia, following a horrific industrial disaster. The death toll in the Lishanyu coal mine explosion, located in China's northern Shanxi province, has violently jumped to 90 confirmed fatalities. This gas explosion occurred on a Friday evening. Chinese President Xi Jinping has since ordered an all-out rescue effort, firmly stressing that those responsible must be held fully to account. Out of the 247 workers who were trapped underground when the severe blast went off, 201 have thankfully been rescued and brought up to the surface safely. However, this still ranks as one of the deadliest mining incidents reported in all of China over the past decade. The executives of the company responsible for the mine have already been detained. To truly understand the gravity of this event, we really have to look at the sheer scale of Shanxi's operations. We aren't just talking about a single isolated facility here. Shanxi is China's main coal mining province. Geographically speaking, it's larger than the entire country of Greece, with a population of 34 million people. Last year alone, its miners dug out 1.3 billion tons of coal. That accounts for almost a third of China's total national output. The sheer scale of the industry here makes absolutely any safety lapse devastatingly consequential.
Pivoting now to Section 4, Energy Crisis Hits Fuel, and its domestic impact.
Let's talk about how these distant global shocks, from the Middle Eastern conflict to our reliance on international energy, are actually directly impacting domestic economies and the fuel costs you see every day. The ongoing geopolitical energy crisis, heavily exacerbated by the war in West Asia and the strategic blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, has driven global crude oil prices up by a staggering 50%. Refiners are literally being forced to pay exorbitant additional costs for emergency spot market sourcing, not to mention surging shipping rates.
Consequently, we're seeing rapid, staggered hikes at the pump right here at home. Take Delhi, for example. Since May 15th, we've witnessed the third significant retail price increase in just 9 days. Petrol prices have gone up by 4 rupees and 77 paise per liter, and diesel by 4 rupees and 81 paise. Rather than hitting consumers with one massive price shock, the government and oil companies have opted for a calibrated, staggered approach to pass these soaring global costs down to the consumer.
And the reason behind this aggressive pricing strategy is pretty stark. Public sector oil marketing companies are desperately trying to offset a catastrophic projected 1 lakh crore rupee loss for the April to June quarter. Just think about that number. If fuel prices had stayed frozen, this deficit would have been enough to wipe out their collective profits for the entire fiscal year.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, U.S. Green Card Policy, looking at sudden shifts and exemptions.
Turning away from energy and focusing on human capital, we're looking at a very abrupt and highly disruptive shift in international immigration policy. This is severely affecting the livelihoods of foreign professionals currently working in the U.S. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services initially announced a really strict new mandate. Under the old policy, foreign nationals on temporary visas, like the H-1B, could apply for a green card from inside the U.S. But this newly announced policy suddenly required these applicants to return to their home country, mandating consular processing from their home embassies once their authorized stay ends. However, in what can only be described as a chaotic reversal, just hours after the initial announcement, the agency walked back some aspects of the rule. They introduced these undefined, somewhat vague exemptions for individuals who present an economic benefit or serve the national interest. While that definitely provides some hope, it basically replaces a clear, predictable process with a highly discretionary bar that applicants now have to figure out how to clear. And the stakes here are incredibly high, particularly for Indian workers stuck in the EB2 and EB3 backlog categories. For these professionals, leaving the U.S. is an agonizing prospect because they already face a 10 to 15-year wait time for a visa number to even become available. What was once a relatively obvious choice to file inside the U.S. has now become a complex, high-risk legal labyrinth.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today in this explainer, from the cleared airspace over Iran to the coal mines of Shanxi, and from volatile global oil prices to incredibly tense U.S. visa lines. As global conflicts escalate, vital fuel prices surge, and fundamental policies abruptly shift, how will these breaking points shape our immediate future? That is the ultimate question we all have to consider right now. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Stay informed, stay aware, stay ahead, only on Zenith Global News.